I'm here at Stately Oaks Manor, which is the Hollywood's inspiration for Margaret Mitchell's Tara in Gone with the Wind. Ms. Mitchell brought some of the producers by, looked at several of the houses in the area, but this was one that she thought really represented Tara well, and this is the one that the producers decided to go with as a semi-representation of Tara in Gone with the Wind. We also have an antebellum area park here that we're going to walk through after, but first we're going to talk to one of the guides here, Steve, who is going to give us more information on the house itself and the surrounding area and the history as related to Gone with the Wind and as related to the late 1800s during the Civil War, war between the states period.
Hello and welcome to Stately Oaks Antebellum Home located in Jonesboro, Georgia. My name's Steve and I work here as a docent for the property. Stately Oaks is an 1839 antebellum home built here in Jonesboro where Margaret Mitchell positioned her book for Gone with the Wind of the Civil War era as Scarlett makes her way back up to Atlanta. The home is Greek Revival. It's very symmetrical. We got our 4 rooms down, 4 rooms up. Wide center hallways. Your air conditioning was you opened your front door and your back door, and that was all the air you got. The square columns are period correct for a antebellum home. Round columns like you'd find in Charleston or Natchez were a little too fancy for a farmhouse from Jonesboro. The home was donated by Miss Emily Orr in 1972 to the Historical Jonesboro Foundation. She lived here all her life. Her family had lived here for 4 generations from 1878 till 1972. She donated the house and it was originally cut in half and moved to this location of Margaret Mitchell Memorial Park in 1972. It's put back together and fixed up for tours beginning about 6 years later, and it's been running as a historical home museum ever since. So Stately Oaks is a home Margaret Mitchell would have been familiar with. Her family lived about 10 miles south of here, the Fitzgeralds. The home would have been something she used as inspiration for Gone with the Wind. Hollywood came to town doing research on vernacular Georgia farm homes. She showed them this home as what a generic farm home would have looked like during the period. Hollywood went back and made Tara look a little bit like this with the square columns instead of the round. We're located in Margaret Mitchell Memorial Park, land that was donated to the county in her name, and it's been here since 1972. So here we are in the entry hall of Stately Oaks. On the left we have the formal dining room. On the right it's the parlor. Behind us is the ladies' parlor, or what's known as the music room. Over here we have the celebration of Gone with the Wind, which Margaret Mitchell wrote and based here in Jonesboro, Georgia. Her parents lived down here and her grandparents. She came down here very often as a child and learned of all their stories that they had of the Civil War, which is what she wound into her book. So here we are upstairs at Stately Oaks. Here we have a spinning wheel the McCord daughters would have used to spin their cotton while they were children. We also have some original furniture here from the 1870s, stuffed and upholstered with horsehair. We also have lamps and mirrors here that were used at the period because most Victorians would put their lamps in front of mirrors in order to double the light. That way you increase your voltage without having to burn any extra candles. On the left we have a canopy master bedroom, and on the left we have the walnut bedroom. So here we are on the back porch of Stately Oaks. This is the door that the soldiers broke into during the Civil War in 1864 when the Union troops came to town and surrounded Stately Oaks as their camp during the Civil War. The soldiers broke in here and ransacked the house, scared the family, and took all the food and all Mr. McCord's clothes. Reportedly, there has been sightings of ghosts in the house. We had a paranormal reading here, and they said the energy was very high. I personally have never seen anything, but I do have trouble with the candlesticks in the dining room. They tend to move on their own.
In the 1800s, even the rich would have used an outhouse a lot like this. It is a 2-seater, so if both of you need to go at the same time, you can come right here into the outhouse and use it. Now this would have only been used by Victorian families through the day. During the night, they kept under their beds or beside their beds a chamber pot which if you had to go during the night, you didn't want to get up in the cold and wander out in the dark to the outhouse, so you would just use the chamber pot and then dump it in the morning.
So this is the original log kitchen that came with Stately Oaks. Originally, the kitchen was separated from the home for fire reasons and cooking smells. This house has been here since 1972. It was moved to the property along with the mansion. The Aunt Lucy, the enslaved servant cook, cooked out here for about 30 years and served the family.
We're in what they would have called a tenant cabin back then. Also, this is where sometimes like slave labor or sharecropper labor, this is the kind of house they would live in. So they were supplied part of the crops that they worked on in exchange to the landowner for a cabin, a place to live like this, and also a portion of the crops to feed their families. Something that I think is really cool about this is how they made their bed here. Is they actually took ropes and interlaced those ropes and then put quilts over them, and this was their bedding. And you see under there their chamber pot. So if you live in the Southeast, especially if you're close to the Atlanta area, I highly recommend visiting Stately Oaks. It is a great place to spend the day. I only gave you a sample of what's here. There's a great 30+ minute tour where they show you all the details of the house. They tell you the history of the house. They show you some great period architecture, some great period furniture, and some of the appliances and stuff they used in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's a super cool place. They even have a Creek Indian village here. So again, if you live near the Southeast, or if you're visiting someone or something and you're near the Atlanta area, it's only about 30-45 minutes outside of Atlanta, and it is definitely worth the trip to visit Stately Oaks and the Margaret Mitchell Park.